Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to this presentation. My name is Devin Tiger, currently a student at Unity College, earning my master's degree in wildlife management conservation. I'm also a researcher on the Florida Panther. This presentation, it'll be rather short, but it'll cover the isolation and the impacts on Florida Panther and how it affects our current management plan and some proposed solutions for improvement in the future when it comes to the management plan. So a little background on the Florida panther. It's a endangered subspecies of mountain lion, which most people aren't aware that there are actual mountain lions in Florida. Um, in Miami and heavily populated areas are not very far from where these Florida panthers call home. Uh, it's currently managed in a partnership with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. They kind of take um, they work together to manage this endangered species down in South Florida. The Florida panther historically occupied the southeastern portion of the country, from Florida north to Tennessee and Arkansas, um, west all the way to almost the Oklahoma border, Texas border, through Louisiana, covering that Gulf Coast region and the South Atlantic coast region. Right now, it occupies approximately about 5% of its historical range. Uh, Panthers are sighted sometimes in Central Florida, but those are dispersing males looking for a mate. Breeding populations are right there near the Big Cypress National Preserve, Everglades National Park, um, right there in South Florida. So our current operations, the Florida Panther Management Plan was co-written by the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. It was last revised in 2008. It's pretty extensive. It's well written as it currently stands. It covers a lot of issues and aspects when it comes to Florida panther management. It talks about issues such as vehicle mortality rates, panther introgression, death rates. Um, it talks about the gene isolation when it comes to the Florida panther, and it touches on certain aspects like human dimensions and things like that. Research is currently being conducted on habitat quality affects panthers' decisions in selecting habitat. So, if the habitat is filled with invasive species, how does the invasive species affect panthers' habitat selection? Uh, in '95, 8 female mountain lions from Texas were relocated and introduced into the area of Florida panthers to kind of determine the effectiveness of introducing new genes to the population, which it's not a novel idea, but it was found to have some success with how it increased the genetic diversity of this isolated population. So some issues with the current operations is while those female panthers were introduced into the population is still isolated from other mountain lions. So gene flow does not naturally happen. It only happens with help from human intervention. Um, so inbreeding depression does occur in this population. It can affect the reproduction and survival of these panthers. Um, it just it makes them less fit for survival. Habitat loss and habitat degradation is a huge issue. That's a huge issue with most species around the world. South Florida and Florida as a whole is no different. With the growing human population, climate change, rising seas, storm intensity, the habitat degradation, loss of habitat is going to be seen a lot in Florida. Florida is this hotspot for biodiversity, and that biodiversity is going to suffer as a result of climate change and land use change when it comes to things like ranching and agriculture. If you see that map right there on the right, we see some red areas, some blue areas. The red and blue are the contrasting areas. The red talks about how suitable is the habitat for the panther. If you notice, you see that red spot in South Florida. That's currently where the panther lives. but there's not a whole lot of red spots or large red spots in Central Florida. But you get up into the Panhandle of Florida, we notice there's a lot more red spots and stuff like that. And the goal is to eventually get corridors going so that the panthers can travel, through Central Florida into North Florida and start inhabiting these areas that are prime habitat suitability for them. So that loss of habitat, the habitat degradation, the fact that we don't have those corridors established affects some of what we can do when it comes to our management. Um, and another aspect of it, when it comes to the human dimensions aspect of it, is just the trust of management agencies can affect how well management plans are enacted and how effective they can be. As managers, as resource managers, we have to build trust and establish working relationships with landowners and the public, because they're going to have a say in how successful our management plan is just on their actions, and if they support or don't support uh, conservation actions. Some proposed solutions for the the future survival of the Florida panther. The largest proposed solution, and one that should be implemented or seriously considered, is just genetic introgression. Introducing female panthers again from populations out west to just increase the genetic diversity, which will increase the survivability of the population. The chart on the right, if you notice, the first boxes have no intervention, meaning no female panthers from out west are introduced, and the population size, as you can see, drops over a period of years. Um, if we did 5 female panthers every couple of years, 10 female panthers, 15 female panthers, you see that the numbers of the population size increases exponentially, um, and the survivability as well does. It's something that needs to be seriously be considered and should be explored further. But even introducing those female panthers doesn't guarantee survival. We have to build things like incentive-based programs for landowners to encourage conservation efforts. We have to look at the human dimensions aspect of what it means to work with landowners. We have to determine the community beliefs, values, and their understandings of who's running the program, why they're running the program, what their preferred incentives are, and which programs are preferred among landowners. Combine that with genetic introgression, introducing new populations or new females or even new males into the population can have great and enormous effects. Um, Batson Ariel 2020 showed that introduction of new males into an isolated adder population in Sweden um, created giant booms of genetic diversity and allowed a population that should have died off to survive over years through human intervention. Habitat restoration should also be a key goal when it comes to management, whether that's removing invasive species or securing new habitat for panthers to inhabit. Final proposed solution, revise and update the management plan. While it is good and it's strong, it's been, we're going on 13, 14 years now since it's been updated and revised. So it's about time for a new revision. These are my references if anybody's interested in them. I want to thank everybody for coming out for the presentation, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their day. Thank you.